What if I told you that the timetable for the second week in Bahrain is lying, and that the most important thing that Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc did does not appear in any official summary? Subscribe to continue uploading more of this type of content now, if we continue. Because while everyone was talking about Leclerc's final lap and comparing chronometers, there was something much bigger quietly happening inside the Ferrari pit, something that completely changes the narrative about SF26 and the new 2026 cycle. Was Hamilton really behind, or was he simply playing a much more dangerous game? Today, we are going to dismantle what no one showed you about Hamilton and Leclerc's great performance in the second week of testing in Bahrain. And when you understand what Ferrari really did, you will see those times with different eyes. The second week of testing in Bahrain was not a simple continuation of the pre-season program. It was the moment when Ferrari stopped hiding, but without really showing all his cards. And to understand what happened with Hamilton and Leclerc, you must first understand the brutal context that this circuit presents. Bahrain is not just any route. It is one of the most demanding scenarios on the calendar for the rear axle, one of the places where graining can appear in a matter of laps if you make a mistake at the start of the stint, and one of the few circuits where degradation immediately exposes any structural weakness of the car. You can't fake rhythm here. Here the car has to be noble, it has to be stable, it has to allow management. And that's where SF26 started sending its first hidden message. Ferrari built a surprisingly complete car. Not just fast in one lap, but consistent over long runs. And that in the second week began to be noticed in the way in which both pilots worked the program. They weren't looking for headlines. They were validating a concept. With Lewis Hamilton, the approach was surgical. While other teams focused on fast laps with softer compounds to climb the table, Ferrari designed for him an almost obsessive program of race simulations. Hybrid maps, thermal management, fine analysis of energy deployment. It wasn't about shining in the last attempt. It was about understanding the behavior of the car over 20 consecutive laps under real stress. And what those long runs left was something that was not seen in the summaries, an almost perfect linearity in the rhythm. No artificial peaks, no sudden collapses. In a completely new car, and under a 2026 regulation that changes many sensitivities, that stability is no coincidence. It is structure, is a solid foundation. But while Hamilton worked on consistency, Charles Leclerc showed another side of the same project. His final day left a devastating turn that took the media spotlight. And this is where many were left with a superficial reading. Leclerc is one step ahead. However, what it really showed was that the SF26 has a high ceiling when the potential is unleashed. That contrast is key to understanding Act 1 of this story. Hamilton was fine-tuning the substance of the project. Leclerc was validating maximum performance. Two different approaches, same objective, confirm that Ferrari has a competitive car both in pure pace and in controlled degradation. And here appears a technical detail that almost no one commented on. In the telemetry analyses that circulated in technical environments, no aggressive peaks of hybrid deployment are observed in the Hamilton batches. I wasn't forcing the system to make up times. I was smoothing out the delivery, optimizing energy management for the race. That means the real margin, if he decides to attack in qualifying, is probably greater than what he showed at in parallel. The car's behavior on corner exits was especially strong, something that points to a power unit with good traction and efficient delivery. On a circuit like Bahrain, where each straight punishes any deficit, this detail is not minor. So Act 1 is not a battle between companions. It is the silent revelation that Ferrari, in the second week of Bahrain, validated a complete package. Stable pace, degradation under control, ability to exploit fast laps, and a base that does not seem fragile. What no one showed you is not just that Hamilton was solid or that Leclerc was fast. The thing is that Ferrari did not need to force the spectacle to seem like a reference. And when a team can afford that in the preseason, it means that the project has more depth than it appears. Because what happened in the second week in Bahrain was not just a good long run or an isolated fast lap. It was a demonstration of structural balance at a time where many are still trying to understand their cars under the new 2026 regulations. And this is where the most important nuance comes in, the difference between looking fast and being sustainable. Hamilton left Bahrain with something that in pre-season is worth more than a symbolic pull, degradation control. On a circuit where the rear axle can collapse in a matter of laps if the car is not well balanced, the SF26 allowed long runs with a flat pace. That means the aerodynamic platform is not unstable, that thermal management is under control, that the car does not enter unpredictable critical windows. And in this new regulation, that predictability is gold. But there is a deeper layer that almost no one pointed out. The fact that Ferrari has prioritized mild hybrid maps and energy management over impact laps indicates that they are thinking about Sunday execution over Saturday narrative. They are building a career before starting a career. And that changes the way we should read those tests. Meanwhile, Leclerc validated the car's roof. And that's key because it removes a structural doubt. SF26 is not only stable, it's also explosive when the potential is unleashed. We are not talking about a conservative car that only survives at race pace. We are talking about a car that can manage degradation and also attack when needed. That balance is extremely difficult to achieve in a regulation change. Now, here the real internal tension appears that no one verbalized. If Hamilton is still not completely adapted to the car's ideal balance and was still able to sustain consistent long runs, that means there is room for individual improvement. And if Leclerc is already extracting maximum single-lap performance, that means the ceiling can be even higher when both are in total sync with the package. And that is what is truly disturbing. Because in Bahrain, we didn't see a forced Ferrari. We didn't see a car nervous on the limit. We did not see artificial energy spikes to disguise stopwatches. We saw control. We saw method. We saw a structure that seems to understand what it is doing. And when a team understands its car in pre-season, while others are still figuring it out, the advantage is not always seen in the table, is seen in the tranquility of the program. In addition, the behavior in traction and corner exits suggests that the power unit is delivering real efficiency. On a track like Bahrain, where every long straight penalizes any weakness, not showing clear losses is a powerful signal. It does not mean absolute dominion. It means structural competitiveness. Ferrari ended the second week with something that few teams can claim in a regulation change: understanding. Not just speed. Understanding the behavior of the car in degradation. Understanding the hybrid map. Understanding energy management in real race conditions. And when you understand your car before everyone else, further development becomes more efficient. Hamilton didn't need to mark the day's lap to send a message. What it did was something more valuable. Validate that it can sustain pace without punishing the rear axle, without causing abrupt falls, without depending on aggressive peaks from a hybrid system. That means that when the time comes to attack in real qualifying, there will probably be additional margin that we haven't seen yet in testing. And there is the detail that no one highlighted. In Bahrain, we did not see Hamilton pushing the package to the absolute limit. We saw Hamilton building confidence, fine-tuning balance, understanding the behavior of the SF26 in long runs. If with that conservative approach the pace was already competitive, the ceiling is still partially unexplored. On the other hand, Leclerc showed that the car does respond when the potential is unleashed. His strong return was not an isolated blow. It was confirmation that the SF26 is not only stable, it is also aggressive when pushed. And that duality is the key to the project. Now join both pieces. A pilot working extreme consistency. Another validating maximum performance. A car that shows no critical weaknesses in degradation. A hybrid deployment that does not need exaggerations to sustain rhythm. That's no coincidence. That is competitive structure. And in a new cycle like 2026, where many are still trying to understand their platforms, starting with a complete foundation can make the difference between reacting or dictating the pace of development. What no one showed you about the second week in Bahrain is that Ferrari didn't seem to be improvising. He didn't seem to be trying desperate solutions. He seemed to be executing a plan. And when a team executes a plan without showing its full potential, that is a silent warning. Hamilton and Leclerc's great performance was not just technical, it was strategic. Hamilton made it clear that he can adapt progressively and still maintain a competitive pace. Leclerc made it clear that the roof of the car is there. Ferrari made it clear that the SF26 is not fragile. While many were looking at the timesheets looking for quick headlines, Ferrari was building something much deeper. He didn't need to master every session. He didn't need to show his full potential. It was enough for him to validate that the SF26 is a complete car. Lewis Hamilton did not go out to impress. He came out to understand. And in that process, he left something even more valuable than a fast lap. Structural consistency, controlled management, degradation under surveillance. On a circuit that punishes any weakness, the Ferrari showed no obvious cracks. And that, in a new regulation, is a powerful signal. Charles Leclerc, for his part, showed the roof of the project. He confirmed that when the car is released, it responds. That the potential is there. that it's not just about surviving at race pace, but about being able to attack when necessary. And when you put both pieces together, the conclusion is inevitable. Ferrari wasn't just fast in Bahrain. It was balanced. It was methodical. It was strategic. Hamilton validated the basis. Leclerc confirmed the maximum. The SF26 showed stability and room for growth. What no one showed you is that Ferrari's real victory in that second week wasn't a fast lap. It was the feeling of control. The feeling that they understand your car before many others. And in Formula One, understanding your platform before everyone else can make the difference between reacting throughout the season or setting the pace from the start. Subscribe to continue uploading more of that content. Now you really think about all this.